It can be easy to underestimate a bird, especially if you're a much bigger and stronger species. You're likely to believe in your own reputation, but every now and then, a bird with courage shows up. Well, not literally. I don't think that's the case. That would be weird. A bird with enough courage to stand up to the most aggressive animals and say no. Some of them have even developed incredibly dangerous moves that can catch their potential attackers by surprise. So, be careful before messing with a bird. Sometimes they're not as fragile as they look. From a goose with an attitude problem to a bird that dances snakes to death, here are 20 times animals messed with the wrong bird. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Secretary bird versus blackbacked jackal. We've already seen this bird get rid of snakes as if it were just shooing away an insect, not to mention a deadly venomous assassin, but what happens when it faces a much larger creature? This video was captured in the Masai Mara, Kenya, showing a strange and half-hearted interaction between a blackbacked jackal and a secretary bird. The jackal makes a few aggressive moves toward the bird, but you can almost feel that it realizes it's not a good idea to irritate this creature. We've seen this large bird stomp on a snake until it's completely dead, so I imagine it has some defensive moves in store if things get out of control with this curious jackal. But the pair, well, they just dance around each other for a bit. The jackal makes a few threatening moves, the secretary bird spreads its huge wings to look really big and scary, and both decide there's not much to gain and stop fighting. It was probably for the best, really. I don't need to see this big bird tap dancing to kill a furry creature, do you? The world of birds is so diverse and fascinating. It's always nice to see the smaller birds coming out on top every now and then. But on the other hand, there's nothing like the majesty of a raptor in full flight. Number 2. Male bird faces black bear while protecting its chicks. Once again, these incredibly brave cranes are protecting their chicks. This time, the threat is a black bear showing a lot of interest in the bird's nest, or at least the bear is trying to get close to the newly hatched crane chicks, and their father isn't letting it slide. The crane spreads its wings in a highly aggressive stance and actually attacks the black bear. It seems to work as the bear, despite being larger and definitely stronger, thinks better of the encounter and turns tail, running off in search of a less threatening dinner, I imagine. Number 3. Large eagle attacks cat and takes it away. Normally, cats are the ones responsible for the kill. Domestic cats are often seen hunting and killing garden birds, usually just for fun. They don't even eat the prey. Why would they when they're fed luxury canned food at home? They just play with it, often torturing the poor creature to death and then tearing its head off, just for fun. Never forget that cats are, indeed, psychopaths. You might try to convince yourself otherwise, but they're planning your death even as they let you pet them on your lap. You've been warned. However, this video turns the tables on these little killers. This time, it's a cat getting its butt handed to it by a massive eagle. The eagle is holding the feline by the head, and the cat looks quite uncomfortable, dangling from the eagle's massive talons, but there it is, in quite a predicament, while the eagle just waits patiently for it to stop making so much noise and tire itself out. Eventually, after a few moments of struggle, but with the eagle always having the upper hand, the bird takes off with the cat hanging from its claws. It's the end for you, little kitty. Oh dear, I imagine someone was posting missing cat flyers on light poles after that. Number 4. Swan attacks seagull with unbelievable violence. Here we have more evidence in our case against swans. These giant birds are proving to be some of the most aggressive and consistently violent among all waterfowl. They simply won't tolerate anyone or anything even looking at them. Give a swan an odd look, and it will come at you with force, literally. And there's a very real possibility you won't survive to tell the story, as happened to this seagull. Don't think about trying to share food with a swan. These birds don't share and don't care. They'll give you a beating even if you just try to stand between them and, well, anything. Seagulls often learn this the hard way. When swans decide to take out a seagull, it can mean the end for the smaller bird unless the swan is feeling merciful, in which case it might just deal a few bone-breaking slaps. Beware of their lethal moves, as swans are more than capable of holding a creature underwater until it drowns, and they'll do that too. So, be careful how you look at them. In fact, don't look at them. It's much safer that way. Number 5. Mama duck fights ravens attacking ducklings. Although ravens usually prefer their food already dead, American crows are omnivores and will eat just about anything. They are active hunters and will catch small rodents, birds, and frogs. So, although it seems unusual to see ravens attacking live animals, these ducklings are quite vulnerable to a predator, even one as lazy as a raven. This mama duck is not messing around. Despite the absurdity of these evil birds, she is absolutely furious at the threats the ravens pose to her nest and will certainly defend her babies with all her strength. It's a tough job alone, and with so many babies stumbling around, the opportunistic attacks from the ravens are dangerously close. It's a nail-biting story which fortunately ends without a massacre. Well, this time, at least. Number 6. Dog injured in owl attack. The barn owl is capable of eating literally anything that moves, and even things that have been dead for some time. It's no surprise that one of these badass birds saw a small Shih Tzu in a backyard and took an opportunistic dive. Well, 6 dives to be precise. Although not the largest birds of prey, barn owls can weigh up to around 2.3 kilograms, but don't think that makes them weak. The bird can carry up to 4 times its own weight. So, while they typically eat rabbits, rats, or hares, they're more than capable of catching a skunk or a raccoon. Some even crazier barn owls have tried their luck and caught osprey and falcons. Their silent attack is their best weapon, along with their incredible crushing power. A creature caught in their talons is squeezed with an overwhelming pressure of 12.7 kilograms, capable of breaking the spine. So I can say there's a good reason for pets to keep their distance from owl hunting grounds. Number 7. Secretary eagle versus snake. Now, this is an unusual and highly aggressive bird with very skilled feet. The secretary eagle is an expert at killing snakes. These characteristics do not tolerate nonsense from anyone, especially not from a snake. In fact, they don't just deal with a snake efficiently and fearlessly. Oh no, these birds will perform a river dance on top of the snake's head before finishing off the reptile. In fact, the secretary eagle's snake-hating style is so appreciated that people all across Africa keep these birds as pets to protect their farms and homes from pests like snakes and rodents. They don't kill just for the sake of it. These badass birds love eating snakes as their favorite snack. They also won't turn down a nice, juicy lizard. Number 8. Eagles attack and eat a baby Komodo dragon alive. We've already seen that the powerful eagle is capable of bringing down formidable animals, with adversaries like wolves being no match. So, an attack on a baby Komodo dragon seems like an easy option. It's unclear whether this dangerous bird would be so bold with a fully grown dragon. These creatures are psychopaths and enjoy nothing more than delivering a venomous bite to potential attackers, watching them slowly fall into paralysis. Unfortunately for this baby Komodo dragon, there's no chance to deliver a deadly bite to the eagle before it starts its gruesome task of eating the creature alive, upside down. This is a truly disgusting scene, and the eagle is not playing around. From the initial strike, with its intensely sharp talons, it was already in the advantage, and the next part of the capture is just another deadly move. The eagle doesn't care if the animal is already dead or not. It's only interested in hunting, capturing, and eating its prey. A bone-chilling technique, no doubt. Number 9. Water thickney versus monitor lizard. The small, sharp-eyed water thickney is very careful when choosing the best spot to make its nest. It settles down for a while, with the river on one side and a massive crocodile on the other. Yes, this brave little bird deliberately chooses to nest next to the crocodile. There are very few animals that get close enough to a large crocodile to challenge such a small and insignificant bird. The presence of the crocodile is like having a 24-hour guard dog. However, there is one species that doesn't seem to care about the proximity of the crocodile: the monitor lizard. These reptiles are determined nest raiders and pose a real threat to the safety of the bird's eggs or even its chicks. It's no wonder that this pair of water thickneys is using every trick in the book to drive the troublesome reptile away. They puff up by stretching their wings and becoming extremely confident and defensive. You know, you wouldn't want one of these birds angry with you. Number 10. Woodpecker fights 3-meter snake to protect its eggs. A small red-crested woodpecker faces off against a huge 3-meter-long snake in an attempt to protect its nest. It's a difficult scene to watch. The snake is relentless, attacking the poor bird repeatedly. The woodpecker receives at least 4 bites from the reptile, but each time it gets back up and takes a defensive stance. Snakes often target nests, usually not caring whether they find eggs or chicks, feeding on both with equal pleasure. The small bird, tenacious, is absolutely determined to protect its nest and is pecking at the snake with all its might. It's willing to fight to the death to save its young. This is how it is for some parents, even for birds, who have these extraordinary instincts when it comes to their offspring. Number 11. Large black-legged kittiwake filmed swallowing a rabbit hole. The enormous black-legged kittiwake is a pretty nasty bird, a very nasty one. It called me names once, and it's the largest of all the gulls. It has a wingspan of 5.5 feet and can weigh over 4 pounds, so these creatures are pretty big. And while it seems like gulls mainly eat fish, since they live by the sea and all that, well, fish and chips and ice cream, judging by the little demons that live near my house, laughing at themselves all day long. But apparently these birds are omnivores, and according to the RSPB, Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, they eat shellfish, birds, and carrion. It doesn't say they also hunt cute little rabbits, but they do seem to be pretty unpleasant characters, so it kind of makes sense. This is a brutal and efficient hunt carried out by 2 gulls, and right from the start, it seems like the rabbit is doomed, and it is. They chase it and then capture it, grabbing the mammal by the neck and killing it before beginning to devour it. Oh, I can't watch, Twinkle. Tell me, is it over yet? Number 12. Mink attacks seagull in the middle of a lake. This is undoubtedly one of the most improbable and bizarre interactions in nature. A mink, a small carnivorous mammal with an adorable appearance but fierce behavior, facing off against a massive seagull in the middle of a lake. It's not the type of battle you'd expect to witness in a wildlife documentary. In fact, it looks like a fight neither of the two sides would want to be involved in. And yet, there they are, in a desperate struggle for survival. The video of the confrontation is as strange as it is fascinating. We see the two animals, one representing the land and the other the air, engaged in a true hand-to-hand battle over the water. The mink, though small, shows incredible aggression, clinging to the seagull as if its life depends on it. And perhaps it does. It lunges at the bird with almost cinematic ferocity, trying to pull it under the water like a tiny aquatic predator who's decided that its next meal is going to fly, even if it has to face the impossible. And yes, at several moments it seems the mink is about to succeed. Its bite is firm, its claws quick, and its determination doesn't waver, even in the face of the bird's desperation. The seagull, on the other hand, doesn't make it easy. It flaps its wings, screams, dives, and fights with everything it has to escape that persistent foe. At one point in the video, it seems like the seagull turns the tide. With a strong flap of its wings, it pushes the mink down, submerging part of its body in the water, as if trying to drown it. But what happens next is straight out of a horror film. Like a villain who simply refuses to die, the mink resurfaces, eyes fixed, panting for breath, and teeth ready to bite again. It grabs onto the seagull with more force than ever, as if there's no other chance, as if this were the final duel of its life, and the fight continues. Relentless, intense, almost surreal. The big question is, what prompted such a peculiar confrontation? Minks are opportunistic carnivores. They hunt fish, smaller birds, and even rodents. But attacking an adult seagull, especially in the middle of a lake, is very out of the ordinary. Perhaps the mink was driven by hunger, or maybe it simply came across a risky opportunity and decided to bet everything. After all, nature doesn't reward the cautious, it rewards the survivors. Another possibility is that the seagull was caught off guard at a vulnerable moment. Maybe it was distracted, swimming, or feeding when the mink approached stealthily. Once the attack began, both animals were left with only one option: fight until the end. This type of scene reveals the brutal side of wildlife that isn't always shown in the beautiful videos with calm narration. Here, there's no soft soundtrack or poetic conclusion. There's only instinct, desperation, and survival. It's nature in its rawest form, where size doesn't guarantee victory, and persistence may be the only real weapon. In the end, you find yourself asking, what led these two creatures to this insane clash? Was it hunger? Was it territory? Was it chance? Perhaps we'll never know. But one thing is certain, the mink, despite being tiny compared to the seagull, proved that when it comes to fighting for life, size can be irrelevant. What matters is the will to keep going, even when everything seems lost. Number 13. The stork faces the elephant in Kenya. It's hard to imagine such a small and light creature like a stork taking on the absolute giant of the African savanna, the elephant. But nature loves to challenge logic and odds, and this story, recorded in the Masai Mara National Park in Kenya, is living proof that courage and size don't necessarily go hand in hand. It all started as an ordinary day on the savannah. The sun shone over the golden plains, the gentle winds swayed the tall grass, and a massive African elephant calmly walked through its territory, probably in search of water or simply exploring the landscape. With its calm and imposing gait, it seemed perfectly at ease until something unexpected happened. From the middle of the grass, a stork, previously invisible and still, burst forth with almost theatrical energy. Without warning, the bird raised its slender body, puffed out its chest, and opened its large wings in a sudden and threatening move. Its eyes fixed on the elephant, its posture stiff, and its shrill calls left no doubt. It was furious, and it wasn't going to back down. This kind of behavior, although rare to see when confronting an elephant, has a plausible explanation. Storks are extremely territorial and protective birds, especially when there's a nest nearby. If it were guarding eggs or chicks, any approach would be seen as an unacceptable invasion. The elephant, despite its colossal size and unmatched strength, did not expect to be challenged by such a small creature. Its reaction was almost comical. It stopped abruptly, took a few steps back, and stood watching that noisy figure flapping its wings as if it were trying to bring down a mountain. After a few seconds of assessment, or perhaps confusion, the elephant decided it wasn't worth continuing down that path. After all, why risk an unnecessary confrontation with a bird that was clearly out of its mind? But the story doesn't end there. The stork didn't just scare the elephant away with its aggressive display, it made sure to follow him out of the area as if escorting a criminal out of its property. With each step the elephant took away, the stork followed closely, maintaining its attacking posture. It was almost a comedy of nature, an elephant being expelled by a bird determined to keep its comfort zone intact. This episode perfectly illustrates how, in nature, the instinct to protect can turn any creature into a force to be reckoned with. And it also reminds us that size, on its own, isn't everything. When it comes to protecting what's important, even the most unlikely creature can turn into a true warrior. Who knows, maybe the stork in that moment wasn't just protecting its nest, but also asserting its presence in the world. Or maybe it was just having a bad day and decided to take it out on the first giant that came by. Number 14. Wolf hunt by Mongolian eagle. There is an ancient tradition in Western Mongolia that has been part of the culture since at least the time of Genghis Khan. It is said that he had 1,000 hunting birds, including eagles, falcons, and others, which were used to hunt all kinds of animals, including wolves, in the relentless terrain. Hunting wolves with birds of prey is traditionally a practice reserved for royalty and is known in Mongolia as the sport of kings. The relationship between the Kazakh people of Mongolia and their hunting birds is quite unique. The birds are seen as partners in the hunt, not as servants, and these extraordinary creatures can have a wingspan of over 2.7 meters and weigh more than 12 kilograms. This is what allows them to train, capture, and bring down a formidable opponent like the wolf. The hunting techniques used in this manner have been practiced by the Kazakh people for thousands of years, and the skills are passed down from generation to generation among these nomadic peoples. But why hunt wolves? Well, the lives of these people have changed very little, even in the modern world. They still live in a nomadic way, maintaining their traditions, eating the same way they always have, and wearing traditional clothing they made to withstand extremely harsh weather conditions. For this reason, wolf and fox pelts are part of their clothing, providing protection against the severest elements. As for the wolf, well, it seems that's what they did with its pelt. Number 15. Goose versus cows. Once again, we have irrefutable proof that Canadian geese are not all there. And if you still had doubts about the sanity of these birds, get ready. This story will make it clear that they really love a confrontation, even when facing opponents that are dozens of times bigger. The scene took place in a peaceful pasture, where a herd of cows was calmly enjoying the day, grazing and relaxing under the open sky. Nothing seemed to threaten the peace in that field, until he showed up, a lone Canadian goose puffing out its chest, walking with an air of bravado as if it owned the place. Without any apparent fear, this crazy goose decided it was a good idea to challenge nothing less than an entire field of cows. Yes, huge cows, some weighing nearly half a ton. While most animals would avoid any trouble with such large creatures, the goose seemed driven by a mysterious purpose, or simply pure stubbornness. With firm steps and bold honks, it marched toward the herd as if it were heading to a meeting where only it had something to say, and it wasn't a compliment. One of the cows, more curious than the others, decided to investigate this small, noisy, and audacious creature. She approached slowly, perhaps expecting the goose to flee or retreat with the approach. But no, What she saw was a firm bird that raised its neck, spread its wings in a threatening manner, and began honking as if it were the toughest guy around. The cow, surprised, stopped. Others started to approach, forming a small semicircle around the goose. But instead of retreating or flying away, which any sensible animal would do, the goose stayed in the center of the bovine circle, glaring at each cow as if to challenge them all at once. It was as if it had trained for this moment its entire life. The cows even tried to get closer, but the goose immediately responded with open wings, loud honks, and that "come if you're brave" posture. Clearly, it wasn't there to make friends. The most curious part is that, despite being tiny compared to the cows, the goose managed to hold its ground for quite some time. It seemed truly willing to start a group brawl, the kind that no one wanted to buy. Each time the cows tried to scare off the unwanted visitor, the goose responded with even more attitude. Some observers compared the scene to a drunk, rowdy person at the end of the night, challenging everyone at the bar's exit. Brave? Maybe. Insane? Probably. Fun to watch? Definitely. After all, it's not every day that a few kilogram bird decides to take on a whole group of peaceful giants for no apparent reason. What was going through that goose's head? Was it protecting territory? Defending its honor? Or was it just one of those days when everything annoys you and even a cow chewing grass becomes an enemy? Hard to say, but one thing is certain: if Canadian geese were movie characters, they'd be the tough guys who show up out of nowhere just to stir up trouble. And this one, in particular, deserves the title of Boulder of the Year for facing such an absurd situation with so much confidence. Number 16. Goose Battle, mischievous baby elephant. When a mischievous baby elephant tries to start a game with a grumpy goose, things don't go as expected. You've got to pick your playmates carefully because some older ones have forgotten how to have fun. The baby elephant sucks water up with its trunk and sprays it on the goose, who's sitting by the lake, minding its own business. Suddenly startled, the goose reacts to the elephant's antics with cold and efficient threats. The goose can be a formidable opponent if provoked. If you've ever played Untitled Goose Game, you know exactly what I mean. These guys can be absolutely crazy. This bold bird then approaches the enormous elephant and flaps its wings on top of it, climbing onto the back of the big mammal, a true power move. Then the bird aggressively flaps its wings in the elephant's face, and the elephant gets the message, starting to try to move away from the bird. It's probably better that way. You should never annoy a goose. They'll come up with a plan, and you won't know when they'll strike. It'll probably be when you're sleeping. Number 17. Golden retriever, dog attacked and nearly drowned by aggressive black swan. Swans are true psychopaths. That's a fact. We've all heard the rumors that they can break your arm if they want to, and whether that's true or not, it really doesn't matter. They have a clearly murderous tendency, and the swan's modus operandi is death by drowning. Yes, these cold-blooded killers don't think twice about indulging in a little murderous pleasure in the afternoon. Sometimes it's because they're protecting a nest or some other instinctive defensive behavior, but sometimes they don't need any reason at all. It's been known for swans to drown humans who irritated them. It's no surprise that this one is ready to face a golden retriever in a battle to the death in an artificial lake in the Chinese city of Chengdu. A woman is walking her old, friendly dog, and the dog is happily playing in the water when a black swan, clearly letting its psychotic side take over, makes a beeline straight for the dog, who is oblivious to the threat. Then, this relentless killer tries to murder another species in broad daylight. They fear no consequences. These birds are confident and clinical. Fortunately for the golden retriever, he manages to make a quick retreat, but that swan has already got the dog's number and will be waiting for the next time. Number 18. Enormous pelican eats a live pigeon after stealing its food. Pelicans are impressive birds, not just for their exotic appearance, but also for their truly colossal size. These creatures can reach a height equivalent to that of a human, around 1.80 meters, and their wingspan can stretch to a surprising 3.5 meters. With their huge beaks and pouches underneath capable of holding large amounts of food and water, the pelican is undoubtedly an imposing bird. It's not exactly the kind of bird you expect to see challenged, especially by much smaller birds. But, as always happens in nature, and also in zoos, not all animals seem to be aware of their own size or the dangers around them. During feeding time at the Penza Zoo in Russia, an unexpected scene caught the attention of visitors and later went viral on social media. The protagonist, a giant white pelican, visibly impatient, waiting for its meal of the day. The atmosphere was tense. The bird was clearly hangry. irritated due to hunger, and its behavior indicated that its patience was running thin. That's when the intruder appeared. A pigeon, seemingly fearless or completely unaware of the risk, decided to venture where it shouldn't. It began pecking at the pelican's food as if nothing was wrong, perhaps thinking it could grab a bite and walk away unscathed. But what this pigeon didn't know was that it had just made a fatal mistake. In a quick, precise, and utterly ruthless move, the pelican resolved the situation in the most instinctive way possible. Without hesitation, it stretched its neck, opened its beak, and swallowed the pigeon whole, alive. There was no warning, no second chance. 1 second the pigeon was pecking the ground, and the next it had vanished into the pelican's pouch. It was a shocking and sudden conclusion. For those watching, the scene was surreal. Some visitors were stunned, others were left wide-eyed, and there were even those who nervously laughed, unsure how to react. After all, it's hard to associate the pelican, a bird often portrayed peacefully and even humorously in cartoons, with such brutal behavior. But this episode reminds us that, no matter how controlled an environment like a zoo may seem, the animal's natural instincts are still alive and active. Though it may seem unusual, pelicans have been seen before eating unexpected prey, such as ducklings, huge fish, and now unsuspecting pigeons. They are opportunistic, and when hungry, they won't hesitate to devour whatever is within reach, even if it includes another bird. And since their digestive system is designed to swallow prey whole, the pigeon barely had a chance. Number 19. The mother hen fights fiercely against a snake to save her chicks. This story could easily be from an action movie, but it really happened in nature. A simple hen, usually seen as a docile and even cowardly animal, showed that motherhood can turn any creature into a true warrior. It all began when a hungry snake, looking for an easy meal, spotted a nest full of defenseless chicks. To her, it seemed like a feast served on a silver platter, but what the snake didn't expect was to find a determined, furious opponent, willing to do anything to protect her little ones, the mother hen. Upon realizing the imminent danger, the hen didn't hesitate. She immediately sprang into action, confronting the snake with a courage that completely defied her size and reputation. As the snake tried to advance toward the chicks, the mother began pushing, pecking, and making way for her chicks to escape, one by one, to a safe spot. It was as if she had split her mind into two. While part of her kept the snake distracted with screams, pecks, and furious wing flapping, the other part guided the chicks as if she were a general in the midst of battle. The snake, persistent, tried to dodge the hen's attacks and reach one of the small prey, but the mother was always in the way. At one point, the struggle intensified. The snake retreated, advanced, tried to strike, but was constantly interrupted by a flood of feathers, beaks, and courage. It was almost like watching a chaotic dance between life and death, where each of the hen's movements seemed choreographed with the sole purpose of saving her chicks. With every failed strike from the snake, the mother gained more time to save another chick. The hen didn't retreat, even with the real risk of being bitten. She flapped her wings furiously, emitted high-pitched sounds, and even seemed to insult the snake in her own language, as if saying, "Not here." It was an impressive display of courage and extreme multitasking, being a mother, a warrior, a shield, and a guide all at once. And the most incredible part? The hen emerged victorious. The snake, faced with the unimaginable resistance of that fearless bird, eventually retreated. It couldn't capture any of the chicks, nor harm the mother. They all escaped unharmed. One could say that, on that day, maternal instinct was stronger than the threat of a dangerous predator. This scene makes us reflect on how we often underestimate certain animals. Who would have thought that a hen, the classic symbol of cowardice, could be so heroic? Maybe it's time to reconsider that expression. Because if being called a chicken means facing a snake with puffed out chest and saving an entire brood at the risk of your life, then being called a chicken could actually be a huge compliment. Number 20. Zalika the hyena faces an ostrich. This new group of ostrich chicks has drawn the unwanted attention of some of the Serengeti's less pleasant creatures, hyenas. Things aren't looking good for these baby birds. Hyenas are formidable pack animals with extraordinary teamwork skills. So, a fragile bunch of chicks, with only one ostrich parent to protect them from an entire group of predators. Never underestimate a parent defending their young, especially not an ostrich. As the hyenas begin their howls and cackles, exchanging instructions and information across the plains, they start to circle. That's usually a bad sign for anything caught in their sights. Hyenas are intelligent and deadly efficient, using their numbers to wear down their prey, gradually increasing pressure and circling in until the animal is exhausted and too drained to defend itself from the final strike. However, an ostrich is a formidable opponent, and when it has chicks to protect, the determination to fight off these cackling predators is even stronger. Ostriches use their powerful legs as their main defensive weapons. Normally, they'd run, since they can outrun many animals, but that's not an option for a parent guarding its young, so they have to do something else. They can kick with enough force to seriously injure or even kill a predator if the blow lands just right. They also have large, sharp claws on their feet, which can be used to slash and pierce when necessary. This bird dad puts an end to the hyena's nuisance in a surprisingly efficient way, keeping the chicks safe and driving the threat away from the nest, using a fierce set of aggressive skills to defeat the predators and send them running. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.